Tonight, the cause of the deadly Singapore Airlines plunge revealed as an Adelaide woman fights for compensation.
The hunt for intruders who drugged a pet dog so they could steal dirt bikes from a southern suburbs home.
China's testing the Quad. Joe Biden reveals his true feelings in a hot mic moment.
The expensive shingles vaccine now available free to more Australians.
And it's party time in Glenelg after a SANFL grand final for the ages.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Will McDonald and Alice Monfries.
Good evening. The Adelaide woman left paralysed by the deadly Singapore Airlines plunge has opened up about the ordeal and her ongoing fight for more compensation.
It follows a fresh investigation into the mid-air emergency that has uncovered new information about whether it could have been avoided.
In 4 frantic seconds, Carey Jordan's life changed forever.
I remember hearing a man ask me, "Can you feel your legs?" And just the reality of, no, can't feel that.
Carey and husband Keith Davis were travelling home to Australia from the UK on board Singapore Airlines Flight 321 in May when the plane struck severe turbulence. A violent and terrifying altitude drop sending Carey and dozens of others flying out of their seats.
People seriously thought we were all going down. Yeah. We thought we'd hit something. It was that violent.
You thought you were about to die?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
4 months on, the dance teacher remains paralysed from the chest down. She's still living in a hospital and staring down a long road to recovery. It's a life-changing event that a special investigation by 960 Minutes reveals could potentially have been avoided.
This analysis that we'll show you tonight is clearly evidence of is that flight SQ321 flew directly into the path of a developing thunderstorm.
Carey and Keith are now working with former Senator and lawyer Nick Xenophon. He's campaigning for better compensation, saying the $75,000 so far offered by the airline adds insult to injury.
Singapore Airlines is an airline that last year made close to $3 billion in profit, and they need to explain why they won't do everything possible to make sure that Carey is looked after for the rest of her life.
The full investigation will be aired on 60 Minutes tonight. Beth Excel, 9 News.
To breaking news now, and a man has been rushed to the Victor Harbour Hospital after a serious crash at Hayborough this afternoon. The victim was sitting in a wheelchair in the back of the van that collided with a tree at the intersection of Ocean Road and Port Elliot Road just after 4:30. The driver of the vehicle suffered minor facial injuries. Major crash are attending the scene.
Police are hunting intruders who drugged a pet dog so they could steal dirt bikes from a home at Cumberland Park. The owners are now upgrading their security and have warned others about placing ads on Facebook Marketplace.
At his Caulfield Avenue home with his red heeler dozer, Simon Cheetle should feel safe. But last night, brazen thieves broke in and stole $20,000 worth of motorbikes belonging to him and his children.
Devastated, I guess you might say. I don't know that it's really the penny's dropped yet.
Most shocking, Simon says dozer was drugged in the process.
It appears that they've subdued the dog with something which has rendered him pretty useless. People suggest having dogs. Well, there's obviously ways and means around that.
The offenders accessed his backyard shed through his neighbour's property. Simon and his family were inside watching TV at the time. They believe they may have been targeted after the thieves saw one of the bikes for sale on Facebook Marketplace.
Creative ways and means they go to get your address and go from there.
Police have told the family thefts are becoming increasingly common in this area and are urging residents to increase their security. Simon's taking no chances, installing CCTV cameras this afternoon.
The message, I think, is perhaps just don't be too complacent. You know, always think the worst and gear up for it.
Kelly Hughes, 9 News.
A 14-year-old girl has been rushed to hospital with spinal injuries following a serious crash at the International Pedal Prix in Murray Bridge. Emergency services were called to the track around 12:45 this morning and spent 40 minutes getting the victim out of the wreckage. The Modbury High School student was taken to the Royal Adelaide Hospital. Her injuries are not believed to be life-threatening.
US President Joe Biden has had a hot mic moment, declaring China is testing Australia, America, India and Japan.
Our Prime Minister joined the leaders at the President's old high school to tackle the challenges of the future. Anthony Albanese vowing the Quad Alliance can stand the test of political change.
The Quad Squad unite. The President declaring this alliance is here to stay.
The Quad, will it survive regardless of the outcome?
Joe Biden has said all politics is personal, and this summit was, hosting leaders at his old high school in Delaware.
I'm absolutely certain that my headmaster would be shocked that I find myself here as well.
China was the focus.
Challenges will come, the world will change, because the Quad is here to stay.
After cameras stopped rolling, Joe Biden said the quiet part out loud.
China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region. And it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South Asia, and the Taiwan Straits.
And if China's president
is also looking to buy himself some diplomatic space, in my view, to aggressively pursue China's interest.
Philippine Coast Guard vessels were recently rammed by China. Next year, Australian Border Force will join with Coast Guards from Japan and India on American ships in the South China Sea, and there'll be more to tackle illegal fishing.
The sum of the four countries is more than any individual nation can do.
The Quad offered health help too to prevent cervical cancer in the Indo-Pacific, and Twiggy Forrest is chipping in.
There's truly nothing beyond our capacity when we act together.
So the Quad stands here united, sending a strong message from here on Joe Biden's home turf. The US President wants this alliance to be part of his legacy. Come next year's meeting, he and at least one other leader will no longer be part of this family. Mr. President, is this a tough goodbye?
Never goodbye. He's at the end of the telephone. I get him easy.
Is it a tough goodbye for the Quad for you, Mr. President? Will you be sad to no longer be part of it?
I'm still going to see these guys. I'm not going away.
In Delaware, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News. The Wilmington Declaration the leaders signed up to did not mention the Chinese government by name. It talked about peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. But the Quad Leaders Summit was set up to deal with the challenges posed by Beijing in waters much closer to Australia's backyard. What the US President has done in this hot mic moment is send a very clear warning to Anthony Albanese and the other Quad leaders about the dangers he believes China poses now and into the future, long after he stops being America's president. From here, 3 of the Quad leaders now head to New York for the United Nations High-Level Leaders Week. Joe Biden, Fumio Kishida of Japan and Narendra Modi of India. Anthony Albanese has opted not to attend those talks, instead deciding to return home to deal with domestic issues.
Well, we know Australians like their beer cold, and tonight one political leader is offering to freeze the price. The Nationals hinting at a change to alcohol taxes as mortgage holders and renters brace for a week that may decide if there'll be a rate cut for Christmas.
If the cost of living is driving Australians to drink, the cost of booze is driving the Coalition to think.
Where we can alleviate some pressure, particularly when there's a cost of living crisis at the moment.
Alcohol excise is levied on beer and spirits, with higher alcohol content resulting in higher tax. The figure goes up with inflation every 6 months, the Coalition contemplating a pause to freeze prices.
When they don't have the disposable income and then you continue to tax, it makes it even harder for them to come out, not just to have a beer, but to have a meal.
Cheaper medicines, not cheaper beer, is the focus of this government.
Tonight, that's left hotels at a tipping point. But the biggest help for pubs and patrons would be an interest rate cut. We'll learn a lot this week. Tomorrow, final budget numbers are released with a larger surplus, and the Reserve Bank meets, with an interest rate decision on Tuesday and monthly inflation data out Wednesday. Some economists tipping the rate will be back within the RBA's target of 2 to 3%.
Whether it's the high 2s or the low 3s, what we've seen over a period of time now is inflation's come off quite substantially.
That's unlikely to mean a cut this week, the Governor warning.
The Board does not expect it will be in a position to cut rates in the near term.
While the Reserve Bank is talking tough, the markets and many here at Parliament are optimistic that rate cuts are coming, with 2 meetings in the lead up to Christmas.
From time to time, we'll have slightly different perspectives, but overall we're on the same page.
The RBA are constrained by the circumstances they're dealt. I'd love to see the cut. I'm no economist, but I'll believe it when I see it if one does come.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
26 new hospital beds have been unveiled at the repat, with the state government hopeful they'll help deal with Adelaide's ramping crisis. Located in a ward for geriatric patients, the beds will be fully operational from November.
Is going to be a huge boost to be able to address the blockages that we have in the healthcare system and make sure that we can free up the emergency department for people who need that urgent care.
Just next door, the Edwardstown ambulance station is now ready for service. From tomorrow, it will be the base for 16 paramedics.
More than 200,000 Australians will now be eligible for the free shingles vaccine, the federal government expanding its program. It means if you're immunocompromised because of an underlying health condition or as a side effect of treatment, you won't need to pay hundreds of dollars to be protected.
26-year-old Charisse Hellier has lived with multiple autoimmune diseases nearly all her life.
I was diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis and psoriatic arthritis when I was just 4 years old.
They're conditions that come with a range of problems, but also leave her exposed to a common and potentially dangerous infection.
If I were to develop shingles, it would significantly impact me and my life. My body won't fight it.
Until now, Charisse would have needed to pay $560 to protect herself against the disease. But from this month, that changes.
We've added an additional entitlement to a free Shingrix vaccine to Australians who are living with a moderate compromise to their immunity.
Previously, the free vaccine was only available to those over 65, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people over 50, and adults with weakened immune systems who were considered high risk. The Health Minister says since the vaccine was made free for over 65s last November, there's been significant demand and at times not enough supply.
We were a bit overwhelmed and I had to go and ensure that we sourced another 750,000 doses of the vaccine in very quick time to deal with what had become a shortage.
This time the government says it's prepared.
Given the popularity of this program, we've been watching very closely to make sure that we don't get caught again with a shortage.
Patients who think they may be eligible should book an appointment with their GP. Josephine Shannon, 9 News.
Glenelg has snatched the SANFL premiership in a thrilling grand final. The captain was the hero with an incredible 7 goals. All right, Gus McDonald, the party has really begun down there at the Bay.
It's just getting started here, Will. Really starting to warm up down here at the Bay. But as you can see on the oval, it is also ready, set up for a big night. All the tables and chairs and that stage there ready for the team to be presented. These guys here are waiting for those heroes to arrive. It was one of the great victories for Glenelg, picking up their 7th premiership, their first time getting a back-to-back premiership in over 40 years. It was scenes down there and it's scenes here as well. Of course, it was led by their captain, Liam McBean. He scored 7 goals, 5 of those coming in the second half. I've been speaking to the fans down here. They told me how significant this victory was.
Oh, I don't think you'll see that again for a long time. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
They're brilliant and they deserved it tonight, they really did.
I was too excited to even do anything because I knew we were going to win.
The party's just getting started here, guys, and we expect it to go late into the evening. Back to you.
It'll be a huge night, Gus. Thank you. It really was a thrilling game. And in the AFL, it'll be a Brisbane Lions and Sydney Swans grand final spectacular at the MCG next Saturday. The two non-Victorian teams fighting their way through to the season end. But now it becomes a fight for fans as the rush for tickets to the big match begins.
Roaring into the grand final in a thriller.
Lions! We're from Geelong! Stop the cutters!
The game now is tickets, fans queuing straight off the win.
Up until about 3, the adrenaline was still rushing and watching the highlights on the phone.
When I was there last year, and I want to make sure I'm there this year to get the win.
Chris Walkley took up his position at 6 a.m. Thursday.
Got the swag, sleeping bag and pillow in there, so it's been actually not too bad at nights.
It's a bit colder in Bendigo, where Peter Dell's hoping for a ticket to his 72nd grand final.
Friday night was absolutely freezing, but it's all worth it. It's great if your own team's playing, but it's just got to be there.
Peter caught the premiership bug in 1954 when Footscray beat Melbourne. Since then, he's only missed one, making it to Brisbane in the COVID era, just not Perth.
I didn't get 70 in a row, but this will be 72 and it's great.
While there's no Victorian teams in this year's grand final, of course both have their roots here. The Swans in South Melbourne, and the Lions' history harks back to Fitzroy. Nowhere is there more of that history than at the club's private museum at Marvel, chronicling from the first days of Fitzroy back in 1897.
This is a pictorial montage of, believe it or not, 1,157 players that played for the Fitzroy Football Club,
which became the Bears and now the Brisbane Lions. There's just one Premiership Cup missing from the archive. It's in Brisbane, from the last time Fitzroy and South Melbourne met.
Fitzroy won by a point, so it'd be great if we can emulate that feat 125 years later.
South Melbourne legend Peter Bedford hoping it's a different omen.
It should be a great contest, and hopefully we can just have our noses in front when the final siren sounds.
First though, the 1970 Brownlow medalist will be at the count tomorrow night, where Patrick Cripps is high on his list.
When you're a chance, it's always good fun, but Nick Dacos, Lockie Neal, Bonapelli, Sarong, I just hope the count's close for everyone.
Penelope Leash, 9 News.
All right, Corey Norris is here. Corey, let's get back to that SANFL grand final. That was simply amazing.
Yeah, there's been some great ones over the years, Will, but that one today will take some beating, and later in sport we'll show you how the Tigers clawed their way back to secure back-to-back flags. And the skipper, as we just saw before, had the biggest say, Liam McBean, with one of the greatest individual performances in a season finale. A hero's welcome for the Swans as they gear up for the biggest week of their lives. And Trez lights up the court in an entertaining debut for the Sixers. That's all coming up in sport.
Thanks, Corey. We'll see you soon. A robbery rampage. Thieves armed with a machete and a crowbar.
The trio taking hold of a service station. Up next, workers terrified as cameras film the entire ordeal.
Unmasking the alleged Easy Street murderer, as his relatives say his arrest in Rome was a mistake.
And last week it was runners, this week cyclists. Next, the reason these riders took over Adelaide streets.
The brother of the man accused over Melbourne's infamous Easy Street murders of 2 young women claims his sibling is innocent.
Perry Coromblice has been revealed as the alleged killer. His brother Tony says he's shocked by the news, but believes the arrest is a mistake.
The brutal murders have gone unsolved for 47 years, but now we can reveal the identity of the man believed to be responsible. 65-year-old Perry Coromblice was detained at an Italian airport after flying in from Greece. Police believe he stabbed Suzanne Armstrong and Susan Bartlett to death at their Collingwood home in 1977, leaving Miss Armstrong's 16-month-old son unharmed. His brother Tony speaking for the first time today.
Just numb. Or just shocked.
At the time of the murder, the brothers lived together on Bendigo Street, just a 350-metre walk from 147 Easy Street. Do you think your brother was capable of this?
I definitely don't think he's capable of doing anything like that.
The then 17-year-old was a student at Collingwood High School, where Susan Bartlett worked as an arts and craft teacher. Retired homicide detective Ron Iddles says he pulled over the suspect a week after the vicious crime, saying, "I searched the car and found a knife in the boot. I saw what I thought were bloodstains near the handle." Iddles handed the knife to detectives. In 2017, police reopened the case. Tony Coromblice and other relatives provided detectives with a DNA sample. Perry said he'd do the same, but instead fled to Athens.
If we was going to hide too, he wouldn't have stayed here for 40 years plus after that.
If somebody wanted to rule themselves out of an investigation and they are in fact innocent, then donating your DNA is an exclusionary measure.
The investigation began here at Collingwood Police Station. It's now moved half a world away to Italy. The homicide squad has 45 days to present a brief of evidence to an Italian court, and they will decide whether or not the man is extradited back to Australia.
This is going to be a protracted process going forward. It's certainly not over.
Gillian Lantouris, 9 News.
3 thieves armed with a crowbar and machete are tonight on the run after a string of robberies in Brisbane. The Friday rampage saw the group kick in a locked door before demanding cigarettes, cash, a car and the workers' wedding ring. It's believed the same group targeted a bakery, shopping centre and tobacco store. Hundreds of young cyclists hit the streets of Adelaide on a mass bike ride this morning to advocate for safer cycling. Safety group Kitty Cool Mass calling for slower speed limits around schools and shops and better riding paths and infrastructure in a push to keep young riders safe.
Well, this morning's chilly start didn't stop more than 300 people turning out for this year's Walk for Brain Cancer in the city. The 4-kilometre walk from Elder Park along the Torrens this year raising almost $235,000 rather for vital research into the devastating disease.
As you say, well, it was a chilly morning and a very cold and grey start to the day.
But Chelsea Carey, finally we did see that sun come out this afternoon.
Yes, Will, and really it was perfect timing for the SANFL Grand Final. The clouds began breaking up and by around at first bounce at 2:30 we started to see some fantastic sunshine that also helped to warm things up just a little as well. We had a top of almost 19 degrees right now. It's cooled off a little, sitting on 15, and it is looking dry for celebrations here at Glenelg tonight, but it is going to be a bit of a mixed bag this week, so I'll have everything you need to know a little later. Alice?
Thanks, Chelsea. World leaders plea for raging violence to come to an end.
Well, still ahead in Adelaide's 9 News, details on that call as Israel unleashes a deadly strike during an attempt to wipe out Hezbollah's leadership.
Too late for another debate. Donald Trump rejects Kamala Harris's latest challenge.
And spectacular scenes to mark 80 years since a daring World War II mission from the sky.
An officer gunned down in the line of duty.
That level of grief that you get puts you on the ground.
Now, for the first time, his family's story of grief and of overwhelming pride.
He did everything in his power to make sure that the other officers that were with him were protected.
9 News, your news, Monday at 6.
Israel's military claims it's almost completely dismantled Hezbollah's leadership after a deadly strike in Beirut killed 37 people.
Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged more cross-border fire as world leaders plead for the violence to end.
Another day and night of intense crossfire. Israel and Hezbollah ramping up their strikes on each other's people and weapons after a devastating week for Lebanon. As search and rescue crews sift through rubble in Beirut's south. After the deadliest strike to hit the city since 2006. The IDF posting on social media, Hezbollah's military chain of command has been almost completely dismantled after a dozen significant terrorists, including Ibrahim Akil, were eliminated. More bloodshed in Gaza too, after an Israeli airstrike on a school killed more than 20 people. The IDF claims it was being used as a Hamas command centre, as Israel and Lebanon's representatives traded verbal blows at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Isn't this terrorism when you target a whole population while they tend to their daily life while they are not fighting on the front? Lebanon's foreign minister says.
We will not allow Hezbollah's terror to dictate the future of our nation.
In London, Hannah Sinclair, 9 News.
A massive fireball has erupted into the sky in Russia after an ammunition and missile depot caught fire during an attack. The incredible blaze triggering an evacuation of the surrounding area. The Kremlin claims it shot down 100 Ukrainian drones over its territory.
Kamala Harris has challenged Donald Trump to another debate, this time on CNN, but the former US president says it's too late as voting has already started. But Donald Trump has managed to launch his own coin that he says is a symbol of American greatness. Well, filling the sky above the Netherlands, hundreds of paratroopers have dropped from a plane to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Operation Market Garden. The unsuccessful mission to seize back key bridges was one of World War II's most daring plans. 12 World War II veterans were among the 60,000 spectators.
There was a time when getting sick in remote Australia meant a long wait for medical assistance. That's why the air ambulance was formed, providing patient care around the country. And we were there as one of its original angels flew in for one more visit.
100-year-old Nancy Frith would be one of the first nurses to fly and provide care with the New South Wales Air Ambulance.
Every flight was different, but you can go to unique places in Australia.
Nancy this week given the opportunity to see how the world she left behind looks now.
Big brother of what you used to fly in. She was describing that it was 2 sets of bunk beds in the back, so we've certainly come a long way.
And certainly the airstrips they used to fly to in the early era, nothing like the facilities we have now.
Nancy's career in nursing has spanned the humidity of Malaysia to her own sled and dog team in the Canadian Arctic, much to the amazement of today's flight nurse team.
Is that how she went and got the patients on the sled?
And like an Arctic sled, a flight nurse's role is generally done solo.
We're a radio call away if they need some advice and support, but they're really self-sufficient out there with their pilot.
The visit including a demonstration of equipment now used. Luckily, a dummy was available.
Will I make it, sister?
You will. You will. I can tell by the colour of your skin and the blink in your eye.
Nancy pleased to see that swift medical care for the bush is still flying out of Mascot.
The growth of the air ambulance is amazing, but it's not amazing, it's what's been needed. It's just such a big thrill to know that this kind of work is carried on.
At Mascot, Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Nancy's certainly an angel, wasn't she?
Absolutely, Alice. All right. The hidden deadly dangers of lithium-ion batteries.
Most Australians don't even know what they are, but tonight there's a new warning as their use becomes more popular than ever before.
See Madonna's Milan statement before a megastar catwalk tribute.
And a golden homecoming for some of the country's highest achieving athletes.
Tonight we have new warnings from firefighters over lithium-ion batteries. Emergency crews around Australia responding almost daily to call-outs to homes. Now there's a new concern, how to deal with battery fires on ships off our coast.
Explosive, toxic, radiating extreme heat. These are fires caused by lithium-ion batteries.
The fires we're encountering almost on a daily basis are from our smaller e-scooters, e-bikes type of batteries.
And when thousands are packed together, the risk is even greater.
They are packed in like sardines inside a tin, except these are very dangerous sardines. You can't put them out. So you can imagine it on the street if you can't put them out. Imagine them on a vessel out at sea or in a port.
Ships are the most common way they're transported, including the ones inside electric vehicles.
If you think about big container ships, they carry up to 2,000 containers. We don't know what's in them half the time. The problem's real. It's here now.
In 2022, a cargo ship carrying luxury vehicles, including EVs, sunk to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Last year, a fire on this ship led to the death of a crew member and concern of an environmental disaster. Captain Adrian Scales specialises in electric vehicle carriage and responded to that blaze.
We had what was a vapour cloud explosion in the headspace of that ruptured the fire main for the ship, so the ship's crew couldn't actually fight fires from thereafter. And actually prevent them getting back to the lifeboats.
There are growing concerns across the globe about the dangers of EV fires on ships, but right now there are no formal safety protocols or guidelines in place detailing how to deal with them when they happen.
We're building the plane as we're flying it. We need to get some plans in place quickly, even if it's just what's the initial response, how do we manage that, and then take it somewhere and let it burn. That probably is what the response is going to be.
That's what this summit is hoping to achieve, gathering experts in the field to formulate a plan.
We need to understand what they know and what they want us as an industry to do.
Probably 5-6 years behind getting any legislation in place that we can work from.
Meg Sides, 9 News.
Covered in a black lace veil and a crown, the Queen of Pop Madonna has been given a standing ovation at Milan Fashion Week. The 66-year-old pop star sat in the front row at the Dolce & Gabbana show, with the designers dedicating the show to her 1990 tour wardrobe, which featured her iconic cone bra.
Well, some of the country's favourite Olympic and Paralympic stars returned home to a hero's welcome on the Gold Coast today. Golden Girl of the Pool, Alexa Leary, even giving some of her fans some tips.
It's amazing, and I love the fact that I've got so many supporters. It's such a nice feeling seeing all these people supporting us all, and I love it. They're telling me what strokes they're doing, and I do freestyle, like it's a joke.
It was a chance for the fans to say well done to those who've risen above and beyond on the world stage.
Yeah, it's great to see them back home. They're very deserving of the welcome. And Corey Norris on the SANFL's biggest stage. It was Glenelg that prevailed.
Well, Alice, it'll go down as one of the greatest grand finals in SANFL history. And up next, we'll have all the highlights from Adelaide Oval as the Tigers make it back-to-back. And it was a captain's knock for the ages as McBean bags 7. Plus, a big turnout in Sydney as the Swan skipper pushes for a grand final recall. And Alex Carey starring role in an Aussie domination over the old enemy. Good evening. Glenelg is tonight celebrating back-to-back premierships for the first time in nearly 40 years, thanks to an incredible 7-goal haul from inspirational captain Liam McBean. The skipper dragging his side back from the brink, standing taller when it mattered most.
There's the siren. The Tigers have done it. They've come from a long way back.
And they have their captain to thank. Liam McBean putting on arguably the greatest grand final performance in recent history. He was on fire from the first term.
This one is slicing back. What a finish, McBean.
He then gave the Bays a mild buffer in the second, but it was Norwood with the ascendancy heading into half-time.
Releases Bain and low, runs to 40, loves it off the boot, runs to the fans. How about that? Norwood have kicked 3 in a row and lead by 18.
Still, their coach knew the job wasn't done yet. Tristan Binder taking those words to heart.
Oh, have a look at that bit of work. That is outstanding by Binder.
But so was this piece of work to stop the rot by the skipper.
And this kick
it's come back.
Is spot on, just what the Tigers needed.
A captain's goal in the premiership quarter, and suddenly the Bays was starting to believe.
McBean took it off and then rushed it through. He's got 4, McBean, and the Tigers are back to within 8. Here they come.
But approaching the final term, these legs weren't quite out on their feet.
Here's an opportunity around the corner for Hamilton. The veteran puts it through.
Still, the second half belonged to the skipper, standing taller than anyone on the game's biggest stage.
And to put them within 7 points, and he gets it, the skipper.
His fifth opening the door for Lockie Hosey to make the most of his moment.
To get the Tigers back to within 2 points. It's going on in the grand final. Tigers are roaring.
And fittingly, it was the captain wrestling back the lead in the final minutes.
The kick is on. The Tigers are in front. This is a huge comeback.
McBean putting the Bays back on top, not just once, but once and for all.
The skipper from 40. He needs it. He gets it. He's got 7, and the Tigers are back in front.
That's where they'd stay. McBean fittingly named Jack Odie medalist as the best on ground, saving his best work for the game's biggest stage. Will Crouch, 9 News.
Yep, what a game. Well, as the dust starts to settle on Port Adelaide's prelim final exit, club great Kane Cornes expects Travis Boak and Charlie Dixon have played their last game, with an official call on their futures expected in the coming days.
It's hard call, particularly on Boak, more so than Dixon because of the champion that he's been. But I thought this year was the discussion was around if it is this year, this is the last one. And I think probably his performance on Friday night, as much as you don't want to just focus on one performance, would think that it's time for him to hang up the boots. And for Dixon, I think it's obvious, and it's been obvious for most of the year, that this should be his last year.
The club will start making some of those big calls on their squad tomorrow, with player exit interviews getting underway at Alberton. Well, Sydney fans have given their heroes an early rev-up as the Swans prepare to return to the big stage for the second time in 3 years. But Livewire Chad Warner admits it's a whole new ball game, and they've got the memories to prove it.
Back on the biggest stage football has to offer, the Swans Army were loud and proud at today's open training.
Just soak it all in as much as you can, and I think with our preparation and going into the games, I think you just got to realise the grand final is a different beast.
Warner and co know how different grand final day is all too well. An 81-point loss in their last grand final outing. A lot's been learnt since.
I think we've got a lot more experience, and a lot of boys have played a lot of footy together now, which obviously helps us.
It was Sydney-based fans' last chance to catch the team before they fly down to Melbourne later this week.
Are you going to go down to Melbourne?
Yeah, we're heading down on Thursday.
You must be so excited.
Yeah.
The passion and the love that the Swans fans have had for us this year, it's been second to none, and hopefully we see them all down in Melbourne this week, obviously. But yeah, it's so great for New South Wales footy as well.
An interstate showdown now locked in for the last Saturday in September, the first since 2006, although that wasn't a year to remember for the red and white. And it may be a week to forget for the skipper, Callum Mills. He's in a race against time to play in his third grand final, as he's currently battling a hamstring strain.
It's going well. We'll see how the week plans out.
He's just so proud of us boys, and hopefully can be a part of it.
Brody Grundy also returns to the biggest stage in footy, and it could be said he's hungrier than ever before.
I'm still pinching myself, to be honest. Just coming from a space of gratitude and just feeling really, privileged and really fortunate to be in this position.
Trent Neese, 9 News.
Brisbane will arrive in Melbourne on Wednesday as they set their sights on erasing last year's grand final heartbreak. And with the Swans to start warm favourites next Saturday, Lions hero Cam Rayner says they're relishing the underdog status.
It's the goal which brought unbridled joy to Brisbane.
Going to have a shot for goal in the left. Cam Rayner's got it.
And for the man who sealed the deal, it was a feeling like no other.
Still feeling pretty good, pretty happy and excited for the week to come.
In a tough and tight contest, Cam Rayner proved a match breaker. And while exercising the demons of last September as part of it, he's choosing to look forward.
We've got such a great support crew in Brisbane and in Fitzroy, and hopefully they can all come together this weekend and we can celebrate with them.
If Rayner is one of this week's feel-good stories, Oscar McInerney is the heartbreak tale. The coach put a line through him after last night's win.
When you've double dislocated your shoulder in a preliminary final, you're not going to be playing in the grand final.
Still, there's so much to like about the Lions right now. A campaign which could easily have ended last weekend against the Giants when they found themselves 44 points down.
If you had have said to me at the halfway mark of the season we're going to be playing in the grand final at the end of the year, I probably would have said you're crazy.
As for Geelong, an off-season of pondering what might have been awaits. The coach revealing COVID and gastro battles in the lead-up to last night's match, one which signalled the end for retiring champs Tom Hawkins and Zach Toohey.
Pulls at the heartstrings, makes just when you don't think you could feel any worse, you start thinking about that stuff.
But this moment belongs to the Lions and their proudest supporters.
Holy cow! How to give your mother a heart attack! Woo! Oh my God!
It's going to be a sleepless week.
Well, the Crows have continued their unbeaten start to the AFLW season with an impressive 33-point win over Essendon at Unley Oval. After a tight opening term, the floodgates opened and Danielle Ponta was right in the thick of it.
With the foot race on, Ponta, goal! She's got two, and more in the kit bag.
The only sour note, a shoulder injury to young defender Brooke Smith. Well, Star 36's import Montrez Harrell has had an entertaining start to his stint in the NBL with several impressive moments in the opening game of the season. The former NBA forward nearly pulled down this ambitious attempt and brought plenty of energy at both ends of the court.
And that's what we've been waiting on. He tried to break the ring, did he? And gotten great results as Cooks comes back. Get that up out of here. Carroll says not today.
Yeah, he finished with 13 points and 13 rebounds, but unfortunately the Sixers went down to Sydney by 8 points. Well, Adelaide United has fallen short of their bid for a spot in the Australia Cup final, going down to fierce rivals Melbourne Victory. The Reds lacked a bit of polish in the pre-season hit-out, with Victory striking in the 88th minute.
Pops out for Geordie Valadon. Breakthrough arrives.
United kicks off its A-League season against Central Coast next month. Well, Alex Carey has powered Australia to a 68-run win over England in the second one-dayer. Returning to national duties for the first time in 6 months, Carey blasted 74 as the Aussies claimed a 14th straight limited overs victory.
I was very excited to get over here. Not that I wanted to get away from the family, but to come back and play some cricket. The break's been great, like I said.
And a netball boil-over, with the Diamonds losing to the England Roses, 61 goals to 59 in Sydney. Well, Oscar Piastri will start tonight's Singapore Grand Prix from 5th as he looks to go back-to-back for the first time in his short career. But the pressure is mounting on his fellow countryman Daniel Ricciardo, who could be without an F1 seat after this race as he struggles to make an impact.
Yeah, today wasn't good. We thought obviously quali would get it sorted, and we didn't. So yeah, that wasn't fun.
Lando Norris will start on pole. Hard to beat a Norris. I can't believe I said that. Sorry.
The best and the worst joke I've heard in a while. Thank you, Corey. All right, the weather details for the week ahead are right after the break.
First, though, we'll look at tomorrow's speed cameras. Stay with us.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Laws tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Hello again. Well, they say winners are grinners, and here at the Glenelg Football Club there are a lot of happy faces tonight after a thrilling SANFL Grand Final, and the Sunshine played ball too. It came out just in time, so we ended up hitting a top of almost 19 degrees. Right now it has cooled off a little. It's sitting on 14. So it was a cool and grey start to the day, and we did see some decent showers around the northern suburbs early on. Around 8 millimetres in total at Parafield before 9 a.m, but by around midday conditions had begun drying out. Mawson Lakes topped at 20, Noarlunga 18. It's been a mostly dry day across our north and west, topping 25 at Port Augusta. Some cloud over the south with a few showers around, 19 on Hindmarsh Island. Now conditions are fining up as a ridge of high pressure moves in. Not for long though. A cold front is set to bring showers on Tuesday. Interstate sunshine for Brisbane, Sydney and Perth tomorrow. Melbourne partly cloudy with 19. Back home you can see the showers creeping closer, but it is looking like a dry day across our north and west. Port Augusta up to 27. A cold start around Clare before a top of 20. Light showers around the southern coast and over the lower southeast, but really not expecting much. Victor Harbour 19 tomorrow. Murray Bridge 23. Now it will be cold in some parts tomorrow morning, and a frost warning has been issued for the mid-north. On the water, a marine wind warning is in place for the lower southeast coast. Locally, quite a calm day, variable winds below 10 knots in the morning. So your Monday in Adelaide, there is a chance of fog through the northern suburbs early on, and we can't rule out the odd shower, but mostly looking like a fine day. Up to 20 degrees at Elizabeth, 19 at Glenelg and Mount Barker, 18 at Noarlunga. In the city down to 10 tonight, tomorrow partly cloudy and 19 degrees. Now on Tuesday we should get away with a dry start, but there is a chance of a shower or two, likely in the late afternoon. A couple of showers lingering on Wednesday morning, but then the sunshine returns and Friday is looking absolutely beautiful, sunny and 21. But Alison, Will, I can tell by the atmosphere here, the party is really just getting started.
Sounds that way. Love the look of some sunshine on the way too, Chelsea. Thank you. Thanks for your company this weekend on Adelaide's 9 News. Kate and Brenton will be back tomorrow at 6.
The block is up next, followed by 60 Minutes. Enjoy your night on 9.
Good night.